Hi, welcome to the National Critics' Choice Online News, and today we have Miss Golda Mowe with us, and she just released her new book here in Southeast Asia, Singapore, also known as Iban Dream. And right now we're going to ask her a few questions about her new book, and and also the culture of the Iban tribe in Malaysia. Well, Ms. Golda, thank you for joining me here at the National Critics' Choice. Tell me, how long it took you to write this book, and when did this idea of writing the book that's in fiction, in fantasy fiction that is, that took place some time ago?
The idea came to me around the year 2000 actually, but I didn't know how to start writing it. I mean, even though my English was possible, it wasn't good enough. My English was terrible in those days. But then I started seriously thinking about, learning about writing and actually getting down to writing around the year 2002. With research works in between, with my own jobs in between and all that, I've only managed to finish the book in 2008. So that is like 6 years worth of journey.
Wow. During the 6 years of your journey writing this book, what was your inspiration behind writing about the Iban culture?
Well, firstly, I love Iban stories. I love Iban myths, like the warrior Keling and his lover Kumang, the most beautiful woman in Iban mythology. And then, of course, there's the warpath god, Senggalang Burong, and his youngest brother, Pulanggana, who is the god of agriculture. And I find all kinds of stories and myths in other cultures written in English, and I'm fascinated with them. My favorites are, of course, the Greek gods. But I don't find anything written in English for my Iban culture. So I decided to write a story about it. But of course not based on a translation or anything, but actually out of stories that my own my own father especially, he's a hunter. He would tell me stories, his hunting stories, like when he's hunting a pig or hunting a deer, or how he had met with one of the reticulated pythons in the jungles and all that. So all those stories just sort of come to me, and I felt that I really needed to write this book.
Amazing.
Based on it.
Now, you are an Iban yourself.
My mother is.
In your mother's side.
Uh-huh.
And so, what is an Iban culture? Could you explain to us a little bit?
Wow, an Iban culture, I guess, is very similar to the Malay culture. For one thing, according to their migration oral history, the families of Senggalang Burong, the god of war, came out of Sumatra at the end of the Majapahit era, around the end of the 14th century. And then the warrior demigod Keling, his family came from Java, also around the same time. Because during those days, the Majapahit government, kingdom, was trying to convert everyone to Islam. And this group of people wanted to maintain their pagan beliefs, their pagan traditions. So they came to Borneo in those days. So what is an Iban culture? It's very hard for me to say, because there is some form of Hinduism in their culture, since they've come from Indonesia. There is also some forms of Minangkabau beliefs in their laws. But of course, all those ideas came from around the end of the 14th century, meaning that after that point, they started building their own culture. They start based on the laws that is from the 14th century. But of course, over the course of the years, they would change certain laws. For example, like the law of adultery. In the olden days, what they would do is that if they found a couple committing adultery, then they would dig a hole, put the couple one on top of the other, and they would plant bamboo spikes into those two. So meaning that it pierces from one to the other, and then cover the hole and let the bamboo grow. as a sign that these two had committed adultery. But over the course of the years, they changed that law. They changed it to one whereby if a man is caught committing adultery with another man's wife, then he is whipped, and then he has to pay a fine to the man, and the man can divorce his wife. I mean, so the Iban culture it has been evolving for the past 400-500 years. But the thing is, the original base is Malay. It's Malay. It's Hinduism, I guess. That is why our language is very similar to Malay.
Oh wow! Now, is there any differences then between the Iban culture and the Malay culture?
Religion-wise, yes, definitely. I mean, by the foods they eat, by the gods they worship.
And how about the language itself? Do they use the same language as the Malay language?
There are a lot of similar words, and some words sound almost the same. For example, like in Malay is makan, in Iban is makai.
Wow. So now, going back to your book, could you tell us what your book is all about? And why do you choose to write fantasy fiction rather than an epic?
Iban Dream is about a young man who is forced to become a headhunter by the warpath god Sengkalang Burong, because the god allowed him, spared his life when he was young. I mean, his whole family were killed in a raid, his whole Longhouse, everyone in the community. But the god spared his life on condition that when he grows up, he becomes a headhunter. So it's a story about his journey of how he had to choose to live a life of heroic servitude, or to risk, making a very fierce god angry. I mean, so this story, this book is about that. And why fantasy? I think partially it's because when the Ibans, they want to impart a story, an idea, for example, like about taboos, about their laws and everything, they always use a story. I mean, for example, if you read about some of the laws on marriages, on agriculture, you will always find the name Seragunting. Why? Because according to Iban oral stories, Seragunting went to Sengkalang Burong, the warpath god, to get these laws. So writing this was actually very natural for me as a way to introduce my culture. It would have been more awkward if it was something academic, because introducing something in Iban in an academic way is not natural. I mean, usually we use stories to do it. So,
could you name us perhaps 2 or 3 superstition or that the Iban culture adopts?
2 or 3 superstition.
Yes, something that's different from the Malay culture, or is there some kind of like a saying that you grew up with, or you have observed from your father's time?
I think the most obvious one is that since they are an animistic society, everything feels alive to them. For example, if they're weaving, they treat their threads, they treat their dyes like babies. They sing to them, to calm the spirit down, because they feel that if they don't calm the spirit down, then somebody in the house is going to get into trouble, like getting sick or dying. So a lot of the way they do things is very animistic in that sense. For example, like for me, it's very natural for me to think like this book is alive, because that's how I've been taught to think. You see, so like the collection of human heads. Even nowadays, they believe that the heads are alive, even though they've become Christians.
Do they still practice that today?
Headhunting, no more. But usually for big funerals, because for if a chief dies, then somebody from the family is supposed to go out and get a human head. So for a family that still practice very pagan traditional rites, what they do is they will borrow a human head from another longhouse and use it for the funeral rites.
Why do people still exercise having longhouses in your part of the world, in Sarawak and Sabah? Why do people need to live in longhouses? Is there a reason behind it?
I think it's you're just used to that sort of life. It's like the house is like handed down from generation to generation. I mean, people don't actually own the land where they build these long houses. For example, maybe one person is the owner of the land, and then he allows other people to build a sort of long terrace house on his land. But then everyone will have their fields like miles away. The culture just evolved from there, I guess. There used to be a lot of headhunting in the past, so that's the reason why they built their houses together like that. But they've also built communities that rely on this kind of houses. For example, like if there's, for example, a big ceremony like the Kawai Antu, because like every 10 years, the Longhouse will celebrate something called the Kawai Antu. It's a festival for dead spirits. And usually they do that once there has been like something like 5-6 people who have passed away in the Longhouse. Because the Ibans believe that if a person has not had a Kawai Antu celebrated on his behalf, he can never leave this world. He will forever roam here. So whenever there is this kind of huge festival, they will have to invite all the longhouses around the places. So that is when this sort of community makes sense, is it? Because then all these longhouses will come and they will stay in different villages, according to the people who live there. They will cook their food there, they will eat there, they will live there. And sometimes for some of the more prestigious houses, it can last for maybe up to 2 weeks.
Wow.
But usually it's just 2 days.
Amazing. Now, speaking about living and writing the fantasy, what are the 3 key things that you have learned for this experience in writing this book?
3 key things.
Yeah.
Okay. First will have to be English, because I've been brought up in Malaysia, so I was taught English as a second language, ESL. Most of the sentence structures are very direct. It's like subject, predicate. But it doesn't work when you're trying to write literature, especially when you're trying to pull people in, you see. So I had to actually relearn English. That's the first one, the most important one. Secondly, I had to learn to be confident of myself, definitely. Or because there are certain parts in the story where I'm not sure about certain things. I'm actually quite obsessive compulsive in the sense like when I get an idea, I need facts to support it. I need some sort of text or historical text to support it. But some parts in the book are based on oral information. So that was very difficult for me. So that's the second thing. The thing.
Well,
there's just so much. There's just so much.
And so
it's like
but so at the end of your writing, what will be the one thing that you would like your readers to learn from?
The environment loves you.
So that's the Iban culture.
The environment loves you. Yes.
Wow.
You live together with the environment. For example, when a Penang or an Iban or Kayan wants to make a blowpipe, they don't chop a tree for it. What they do is they go to the huge tapang trees, the honeybee tree with those big buttress roots. some of them as high as those pillars up there, 20, 30 feet high. Then they will cut the roots. They will cut that part of the buttress that's just enough for the blowpipe, and they will take that. It will not harm the tree. And the tree will grow by itself again. And if somebody sees someone else had taken a part of that tree, they will go to another one. Or they will take a different part of the root. And the tree will be unharmed. It's this kind of things that I would really like my readers to accept and learn.
If you had not written this book, would you have regretted it? Would you have any regrets if you had not written this fiction?
Let's just say that I'll be a very unhappy person. I mean, I've tried working for international companies, for about 15 years before I actually started writing the book. I could have been successful if I wanted to, but somehow you're just not happy. Maybe that's what people meant when they say that everyone has a destiny. But somehow I always feel out of place. It doesn't matter how efficient I become. It doesn't matter how well I did. There is always something that is not complete.
And speaking about being complete as a young fiction writer, tell us about the future of for young fiction writers and aspiring ones. What do you see yourself, and what kind of advice would you give for aspiring writers as well, writing for the first time? Because since you have written this book and got it published for the first time, how does it feel?
For young writers, I'll say, I have only this one thing to say. It doesn't matter how bad people think your book is. You can always improve. Because when I first wrote Iban Dream, when I first let people read it, after I finished it, I let people read it. A lot of people came back and said, this is terrible. This is like reading some sort of machine manual. It's terrible. But over the years, I try to improve it. And every time after I've draft and redraft it, I'll make somebody else read it. And then the reviews started getting better and better, and up to a point where I said, okay, I can send this to a publisher. Just because somebody let you down the first time, don't take it as something bad. Because when they let you down, they're actually helping you. They're telling you that it's not ready for the rest of the world yet. So what you do is you improve on it, you go back, and then you go back to somebody else, pass it to them, or go back to the original person, that's even better. Make them read it. If they still think it's bad, you work on it some more.
What kind of trends do you see in Malaysia for young fiction writers? Do you see there's a lot of opportunity coming ahead for them?
Oh yes, definitely. Malaysia is very rich with history, is very rich with cultures. I think part of the advantage is because we were in the spice route. We have people with all kinds of background. And even now, I am still learning about Chinese history about the Chinese immigrants coming into Malaysia, and I find their stories so fascinating. I mean, this is a region where there is so much personal struggle, because a lot of people came in as migrants, and some of them died because of what they wanted to do. They wanted to improve their lives. There are just so many ideas. All the young people need to do is to maybe approach an elder person and say, what was your life like? And you got a story that will make Amy Tan jealous. I mean, I bet you can do that.
Now, while writing this book, Iban Dreams, what was your one favorite drink or cuisine that keeps you going?
Inside Iban Dream itself?
That's right. Is there any one cuisine that keeps you going writing the book and complete it? Was it ice cream, or was it special Iban dessert?
I love food with lots of carbohydrates. It's rice, definitely. Oh, yeah. Come to think of it, yes, it's rice. There are some parts even inside the book where I talk about Bujang eating lots and lots and lots of rice. That was my favorite part. I mean,
how much rice? But how much rice do Ibanese eat in a day? Is it?
Not a lot, not a lot. Because rice is usually hard to get
Oh,
in the olden days.
Okay.
Um,
Are they expensive?
Nowadays, of course, it's cheap, but in the olden days, I mean, you have pest problems, and all that. So rice is very hard to get, but rice is a very important staple to us, and in fact, so important in fact that only the women are allowed to plant the seeds, because men are believed to have blood on their hands because they head hunt, of course, humans, and they hunt animals. So because of the blood on their hands, it is said that it's not good for planting paddy. So it's the women who planted the seeds. Of course, the men will help them prepare the fields and everything, but only the women are allowed to plant the seeds.
Wow, amazing! What a revelation that we have today. Once again, folks, please, do get hold of Golda Mowe. Book, Iban Dream, which is all about the Iban culture in fiction, and is available on all good leading bookstores around the world, and soon to come on Amazon as well. So, by the way, Miss Golda Mowe, please tell us, for our viewers, how can they contact you for more information? Do you have a website? And also, one more thing, what's next for you? Are you writing your next book?
You can find me in Facebook. You just need to type my name. Or you can go to my website www.g and then mao.ws. You can write to me from the email there.
And of course, once again, thank you for joining us. This is Robin Stienberg, and this program is proudly sponsored by Monsoon Publishing. Monsoon is the publisher for Ms. Golda Mowe's book, Iban Dream itself, and so please, once again, don't miss her book, and she's going to be coming around the world soon as well, and Ms. Golda, you also have plans to go to the United States in the near future, and as well as around the world for book tours. Is that right? Maybe?
I haven't heard from my publisher, but it would be nice.
Yeah, that would be nice. That's right. So Monsoon, take care of it. Once again, I'm Robin Steinberg. Have a good day ahead.